This movie tells the story of a young teenager discovering freedom and a passion for love. Elizabeth is a teenager who is suffering from anorexia and is terrified of germs and bacteria. She discovers love, and that changes her way of living. The movie begins with Elizabeth at an airport. She's looking around and analyzing the people. She goes to the bathroom and makes sure to wash her hands a couple of times and not to touch anything. A young boy comes up to her and she sees that he has a poster with her name on it. She asks about his name and he says it's Isaac. She sees that the board has the name Elizabeth written on it. She tells him that she hates the name Elizabeth and asks him to call her Daisy. She gives him an attitude right away and he is taken aback by it. She asks for his mother and he says that he has come to pick her up. He asks her to help with the bags and she doesn't let him. He suggests going to the car, so they head on. They walk through the parking lot and she asks him where the car is. He tells her that they charge a lot for a parking spot, so he has parked the car on the side. They get to the car and she asks about his age. He says that he is 14 and she asks about his license. He says that he's been driving since 6 years old as he gets inside the car. She tells him that she won't go with him and he tells her the next option is taking the bus, to which she agrees but realizes that's not an option when he tells her that the next bus is the next day. The ride starts and after some time, Isaac tries to have a conversation with her. He asks her whether she's going to stay with them the whole summer, and she asks him whether he's trying to get rid of her. He tells her that they have been waiting to meet her, especially his little sister Piper, who is the only girl in the family. She asks him to keep quiet for the rest of the ride as she thinks they've bonded enough. She tells him that she won't be the cousin everyone likes because she doesn't plan on kissing their ass. The little boy tells her that it's fine and decides to put some music on. They arrive in the village and get out of the car. Two big dogs come running to Daisy and end up tackling her to the ground. Piper and Isaac try to help her, but a young man beats them to it. He helps Daisy get up and as she holds his hand, different thoughts run through her mind. He disappears quickly, so Daisy asks Isaac about him. He tells her that his name is Edmund and he is her oldest cousin. He introduces Piper and calls her the baby of the family. Piper holds Daisy's hand and asks her whether she wants to see her unicorn. Daisy says no and asks to go to her room. They take her inside and she sees Joe. They introduce him to her and we find out that he is their next door neighbor. Daisy notices that the kitchen's in a mess. Isaac offers her a drink but she doesn't accept it as she's disgusted by the hygiene of the house. Piper tries to call their mother to see Daisy, but Isaac stops her. Isaac tells Daisy that they don't see their mother until the evenings because she's constantly working. Piper takes Daisy to her room and Daisy washes her hands immediately. She tells Piper that she has to call her father, but the little girl doesn't get the hint to leave the room. Daisy yells at the girl to leave and slams the door once she does. She sits on the bed and her thoughts get to her once again. The next morning comes and Daisy goes to the kitchen for breakfast. Piper sees her and gets excited. Isaac tells Daisy that their mother is in London on an emergency meeting, but has promised to see her once she gets back. They offer her breakfast, which is a pile of different meats, but she tells them that she's not hungry. Isaac offers to make her a sandwich with the different cheeses they have, but she says that she doesn't eat wheat and cow cheese. He asks her why she doesn't eat dairy and she says that cow cheese is solidified cow mucus that stays in your gut for 5 years. The kids seem a bit scared from that, but Edmund walks in and they snap out of it. Daisy tenses up as he walks in and takes her sunglasses off. He pours himself a glass of water and she pours some water for herself as well. Isaac asks Daisy whether she's called her father, so she lies and says she has. She notices Edmund staring at her and asks him what he's looking at in a higher tone. He sets his glass down and storms out of the house. She goes to her room and takes a pill. She looks through the window and sees him, and her immediate thoughts are to stay away from him. There is a knock on the door. Isaac comes in and asks her whether she wants to go fishing with them and she says that she doesn't fish. Isaac doesn't know what to say back, so he leaves and closes the door behind him. Daisy puts her headphones on and looks around the house. She goes outside and decides to look around. She sees Edmund with an owl and decides to watch him. The bird climbs onto his hand and he locks it in a garbage can. She is horrified and decides to leave. Edmund follows the noise and realizes that Daisy might think that he is doing a horrible thing. The kids come back with fish in their hands and Daisy watches them from her room. She stays in her room the whole day and goes to sleep at night. A noise wakes her up and she hears a woman talking. She follows the sound and ends up in front of her aunt's office. She accidentally pushes something off the shelf and it falls. Her aunt notices that someone is at the door and asks who it is. Daisy makes herself known and the aunt ends the call. She asks her to come in and Daisy does. Her aunt sees her all grown up and gets excited. She tries to caress her cheek but Daisy moves away from her. Her aunt receives another call. She answers it and tells them that she will call in 5 minutes. They sit down and Daisy notices a graph on her aunt's computer about how many people will be dead at the war. Her aunt notices and tells her that she is just preparing for the worst. Daisy asks whether everything's fine and she says that it will be. Her aunt asks her how she's settling and Daisy says that she's fine. There is a meeting her aunt has to go to in Geneva, so she asks her whether she should call her father and tell him not to worry. Daisy tells her not to bother because she thinks she wouldn't be in the village if her father cared about her. Her aunt laughs and Daisy asks her what's funny. She tells her that the way she talks reminds her of her mother. Daisy is surprised that her mother used to come to the village, so her aunt tells her that the room she's staying in was the bed her mother used to sleep in. Her aunt gets another call and she has to take it. Before Daisy leaves, she tells her that her friend Sally will come to take care of them while she's gone. The next morning comes and Daisy sees her aunt leaving. She hugs all of her children and heads on her way. Sally does her makeup when Isaac comes into her room. He asks her whether she wants to go swimming before Sally comes and makes them eat vegetables. Daisy says that she doesn't swim, but Isaac tells her that they know a cool place, and it's their last chance to have fun before Sally arrives. Daisy doesn't listen to him and tells him that she'll go next time. She looks in the mirror and her thoughts start rushing again. They tell her to step out of her comfort zone and take risks. Isaac goes out alone but is surprised to see Daisy come behind him. She tells them that she has changed her mind, but she'll only be attending and not swimming. They head their way, but several war airplanes stop them in their tracks. They think nothing of it and continue on their way. Halfway there they come across a small gate they need to jump and get through the cows. Everyone jumps it and Daisy is left behind. She asks them whether the animals were cows or bulls and Isaac tells her that they're cows. Edmund is the only one waiting for her and he tells her that they won't hurt her. She tells him that it is fine and she will go back home. He tells her to wait and goes to whisper something to the cows. He makes the cows move to another field, and Daisy stares in disbelief. He gives her a hand, and she jumps the gate but ends up cutting her finger. He asks to look at it, and even though she doesn't want to, he grabs her hand and sucks the blood out of the finger. Daisy can't believe what the young man has done, and wonders how he doesn't fear the different bacteria. They join the rest and soon they arrive at the river. Daisy sits on a tree and watches them have fun. Isaac splashes some water on her and she tells him to stop it as there are bacteria in the river water. He tells her that there are no bacteria in that river and everyone who comes to it has to take a swim. Daisy stays on the tree as she tells him that there's a first time for everything. Joe asks her to look at the river as there's something she would like to see. Daisy is a skeptic at first but goes to look at the thing. She sees nothing but hears Edmund talking behind her. He tells her that she should let go and stops obeying the rules that the voice inside her head says. He pushes her into the river as he jumps in himself. Daisy finds herself having fun in the river, and the voices in her head are gone. The group enjoys some marshmallows on a fire after the river. Isaac offers Daisy some and she asks whether she has to take it. Everyone says yes and Daisy takes the marshmallow. She admits that they are good and eats the whole thing. A gust of wind and the screaming of different animals are what grab everyone's attention. The wind starts blowing wild as an explosion is heard from far away. Snow-like particles are falling from the sky even though it's summer. Joe heads home and Edmund tells everyone to grab their stuff and head home. They arrive back at the house, and Piper looks for Sally. She says that Sally isn't at the house, and she can't phone their mother. Isaac goes for the TV and asks everyone to see something. They see that a nuclear device, or a bomb, has hit London and there are many victims. The news is cut off as the power goes off. Edmund checks the TV and sees that there's a power outage. He tells Isaac to get the torches as he's trying to get a signal from the radio. Isaac doesn't take things seriously as he jokes about the explosion. He sits down and Edmund tells him that it is a serious thing. Daisy runs to her room and tries to contact someone through her phone. She realizes that they could go into a blackout and the thoughts come rushing in. Nasty words are said against her in her mind. And as they pile, Daisy is forced to take her medication. She looks at the mirror and calls herself a curse as tears fall down her face. They sit in the living room with candles around them, trying to get a hold of the radio. Piper says that she misses her mother, but Isaac tells her not to worry because she is in Switzerland. She says that she wants to call her, but Edmund reminds her that the phone isn't working. Isaac tells her not to worry because their mother is on her way back, as he thinks she's surely not going to leave them alone when she knows what's going on. They get a signal on the radio and it reports that the government has declared a state of emergency. They are told not to panic but to stay at home until told otherwise. Piper gets scared and jumps into Edmund's arms. He tells her that it will be all right as he hugs her tightly. Everyone's scared, so all of them sleep together in the living room. The next morning, Daisy is awakened by Edmund and he tells her that he has to show her something. They go outside and Daisy reminds him that they're not allowed to leave their home, but Edmund tells her that the woods are their home. She assumes that there will be radioactivity in the air and asks him about it, but he continues to walk and doesn't listen to her. She follows him, and he takes her to the old trash can she saw him lock the bird in. She sees the bird alive and well, and he tells her that the bird had a broken wing, so he helped it heal. He takes her out and says that she is ready to fly again. They go up a hill and he lets the bird fly. The bird flies perfectly and her wing has healed. They watch it as it disappears into the clouds. Daisy apologizes to Edmund and says that it's her fault. He comes closer to her and asks her what she's talking about. She starts crying and says that she is a curse, and everywhere she goes, bad stuff happens. Edmund looks her in the eyes and tells her that he's glad she came and that everything is better with her. The evening comes, and the siblings gather around the fire and play games. Isaac is looking at maps and claims that their mother could get back to them by driving. Daisy is reading a book, and Edmund is playing cards with Piper. Edmund can't seem to keep his gaze off Daisy, and she notices that. She gets uncomfortable and goes out to get some air. After some time, she hears someone coming from behind her. She turns and Edmund is standing there. He takes her hand and leads her to the trees. They stop and he looks at her eyes before kissing her. Daisy breaks off the kiss. Edmund kisses her again, and she stops it by running back to the house. They have a visit the next morning, and it's an agent from the American embassy. He asks to speak to Daisy in private and tells her that they will be getting her out of the county because she is an American citizen. Before the agent leaves, she asks him about her cousins. He tells her that there's nothing he can do because they're not American citizens. The agent leaves the house and he is met with Edmund's questions about the situation in the city. He tells him not to worry because they will be evacuated and taken to a safer place in a couple of days. Edmund is chopping wood when Daisy comes and tells him that they will be picking her up from the village the next day. He tells her that he knows and is glad because he wants her to be safe. He asks her not to worry about them because they will be moving to a barn in the woods. He won't let anyone take them from their home. The siblings get to work later in the day as they move all of their stuff to the barn. They pack on wood and other supplies they need to survive and even make their beds. Piper shows Daisy the beds and says that she will be having the worst bed as she leaves the next day. They go to bed later on in the night and fall asleep quickly as they're tired from moving. Daisy wakes up in the middle of the morning and sees that Edmund isn't there. She goes outside and sees him sitting next to a fire. She sits next to him and lays her head on his shoulder. Things escalate quickly as they end up making love the whole night. Edmund wakes up the next morning but sees no Daisy next to him. He goes outside and finds her lighting up a fire. He asks her what she's doing and she tells him that she's scared. She wants to be safe but wonders whether they can get through it, and believes that there's life on the other side. If there's a chance for survival, she wants to stay where she already is, with him. She throws the ticket in the fire and grabs Edmund's hand. The group spends their days swimming in the river, fishing, and hunting animals. They enjoy nature as they light up a fire and play different games in the woods. Edmund and Daisy's relationship grows as they get closer and fall in love with each other more. Joe visits them often and they have fun, but he brings an eviction notice one day and tells them that he has to leave. They light up the paper on fire and think nothing of it. One morning, as everyone's sleeping, Edmund hears the dog barking. He gets up to check, and that's when shots are fired. He tells everybody to get to the ground as the shots burst through the barn. A soldier kicks the door open and points a gun at Edmund's head. They take everyone out of the barn and lay them on the ground. They bring them back to the house and let them get dressed. One soldier tells them that the area is filled with enemy units, and they need to leave. They tell the girls to get into the van, and the boys will be advised by someone. They don't want to leave and don't listen to the soldier. He asks them again, but they differ, so the soldiers have to force the girls into the van. Edmund tells Daisy to find a way back no matter where they take her, and she promises to do so. He tries to stop the soldiers from taking them away but gets tackled to the ground. He asks Daisy not to forget what he said to her as the vans drive away. The girls see the whole city in disaster. Everything's been destroyed in the explosion. They take them to a house, and a couple welcomes them. The lady shows them around the house, where the toilet is, where they'll be sleeping, and tells them that she has only one rule, and that is not to touch her son's stuff so he can have them when he comes back from war. She tells them that they are using water tablets because the water is contaminated. Daisy tells her that they've been drinking and swimming in the water from the river, and the lady tells her that they should consider themselves lucky. She leaves and tells them that she will call them when dinner's ready. They settle, and Piper asks Daisy how their mother will find them, while tears stream down her cheeks. Daisy tells her that she's there for her and that her mother is okay. She hugs her and promises her that they will go back home. Dinner time comes, and the girls go to eat. They don't like the food but proceed to eat it because they don't have a choice. They spent their days picking good crops from the farm and eating what they can. Daisy plans an escape back to the village as she gathers a map and a compass to help her find the way back. She sees that the couple has a gun on their nightstand and plans to take it as well as some food for the way. She has a dream, and before she wakes up, she sees Edmund telling her that he's home and waiting for her. Daisy tells Piper that she has everything ready for their escape the next day, and mentions the dream she had the previous night. One day at work, Daisy spots Joe and goes to hug him. He tells her that they have taken his father away from him and he is staying with some weird boys. Daisy asks him whether he's seen Edmund or Isaac, and he tells her that he hasn't. They get onto the truck to get back to their houses and Joe rides with them. Daisy tells him that she has planned an escape and asks him whether he'll be joining them. He tells her that there is no point, it's all gone and everyone is dead. They come to a checkpoint and notice that the enemies have taken the checkpoint. They're asked to get down and stay quiet. The driver tries to reverse the truck, but it gets stuck on a cemented cone. Joe can't seem to take it anymore and yells profanities at them for taking away his dog's life. He shouts at them, and unfortunately, Piper and Daisy get back home and prepare for their escape. The night comes, and Daisy gathers all of the stuff in a backpack. She notices that Piper is scared and tells her that they will get through it. All she has to do is focus on the goal. They end up escaping unnoticed as the lady and a soldier are having a fight about moving out. They make it to the open even though there are explosions all around them, and hide in a destroyed building where they spend their night. Daisy has a dream where she's chasing Edmund through the woods but she can't seem to find him. She wakes up and they head back to the road again. Piper tells her that her legs hurt and asks to stop. but Daisy says that they have 6 days of walking ahead of them and can't afford to stop. She stops to check for her things and notices that she has forgotten the water tablets, and decides to save the bottle of water for emergencies. They get deeper into the woods and see all of the disasters that have happened. They notice a man hanging on a tree, and Piper asks Daisy whether her brothers are fine. She tells her that they have to be and asks Piper to continue walking. Piper spots a box of chocolates on the ground and picks them up before she continues. Daisy hands the water bottle to Piper on their next stop and tells her that she can finish it before they continue. Daisy looks at the map as Piper's sleeping and realizes that they have a long way to go. She lays down to rest and falls asleep. She has a dream where Eddie is asking for her help, and that wakes her up. She hears a group of people yelling and follows the noise. She sees a fire, and around it men are who are torturing women. She hears footsteps on her side, so she hides in the bush. She sees 2 men holding a helpless woman. They drop her on the ground and she spots Daisy. She asks for help, but Daisy can't do anything about it. The woman runs past her to avoid the man noticing her, but the men catch her and take her deeper into the woods. Daisy runs back to Piper, wakes her up, and tells her that they need to move. On their way, Piper keeps complaining about how she needs water and that her feet hurt. Daisy snaps at her and tells her to shut up. She says that she is tired of her whining and asks whether she wants to be left behind. She asks her whether she wants to see her brothers again, and poor Piper nods. Daisy tells her to continue their walk and be quiet, otherwise she'll run and leave her behind. The morning comes and the girls can be seen walking. Piper sees a river and goes to drink some water, but Daisy slaps her hand. She reminds her that the water is contagious and could be poisoned. She also says that eating the chocolates was a dumb idea, but Piper says that she couldn't control herself. Piper tells Daisy that her mother used to call her a chocolate monster because she was greedy. The little girl assumes that's the reason her mother left her and didn't want to be around her anymore. Daisy calms her down and says that sometimes people say things they don't mean. She tells her that her mother loves her and is proud of her. Piper asks how she knows, and Daisy says that she is older than her and knows stuff. Daisy apologizes for the things she said the previous night and says that she didn't mean it. Piper smiles and they continue on their road. As they walk through the woods, Piper asks Daisy what her mother was like. Daisy tells her that she has never met her mother because she died when she was giving birth to her. They come across a sign that says Gatesfield, and Piper gets excited. She tells Daisy that they have to go there because Edmund and Isaac have been taken to that place. Daisy doesn't want to go there, but ends up changing her mind. They get there and notice no one, so Daisy asks Piper to stay at the entrance while she explores the place. She finds the place abandoned, and once she gets to the back she sees why. She sees bodies and bags laid next to each other. She starts opening the bags and hopes she doesn't find the bodies of Edmund and Isaac. Unfortunately, she finds the body of Isaac and takes his glasses in memory. She heads back to Piper but throws up before she can see her. She lies to the girl and tells her that her brothers are not there, so they continue their journey. On their stop, while Piper's taking a nap, Daisy takes Isaac's glasses and buries them in the ground. She starts crying but makes sure she doesn't wake Piper up. They walk next to a barn and sit by a tree. While looking at the map, Daisy hears something in the bushes. She quickly notices 2 men and yells at Piper to run as fast as she can. They run, and Daisy lets Piper hide underneath a fallen tree, while she hides at a tree nearby. The men come and unfortunately find Piper. They start teasing her and making fun of her like she's their prey. Daisy comes out from the tree and tells them to leave her alone, as she points a gun at them. One of the men holds Piper as the other tries to get closer to Daisy. She tells him not to move or she will shoot him, and he does exactly that. Daisy shoots him, and the other guy tries to flee. She tells him not to run, and he falls to the ground in surrender. She ends up shooting him as well, and the nasty thoughts start rushing. They flee from the scene, and after some running, Daisy goes to look at the map, but finds that she has lost it. They continue walking, even though they're not sure where, but after some time, they seem to have lost all hope. They lay down to rest, but hear a sound of an owl. Daisy looks up and notices that the owl is the one Edmund had saved while they were in the village. She wakes Piper up and tells her that the bird is showing them the way home. They follow the bird and Daisy tells Piper that Edmund is alive. They arrive at the house and see that the house has been destroyed. They search the house but find no one. They go to the barn, and Edmund is nowhere to be seen. They do find their dog Jet, and Piper gets excited. Daisy runs out of the barn and starts crying. Piper comes to her side and comforts her. They get inside the house and eat whatever's left. They hear Jet barking somewhere in the woods, and Daisy realizes that Edmund is there. She follows the barking and finds Edmund lying helplessly. She helps him gain his consciousness back, and once he does, she tells him that he is home. She takes him in and gives him a bath. She helps him heal his wounds and gets him back to life. The world starts healing as time passes, and everything gets back to normal. Edmund's wounds heal and he starts walking again. Daisy says that they don't know what happened to him, but he doesn't talk or even accept anyone's touch. One morning, they receive a medical kit as well as mail, and Daisy takes it to the house. Piper looks at Eddie through the window and asks Daisy whether Isaac's gone. She tells her that he has passed away but promises that Edmund will be alright. Daisy has Edmund in her mind all the time. She admits that she has used her willpower for stupid things in the past, like trying to control everything, but promises Edmund that she will use it to wait for him. She believes that everything will be alright, but knows that it'll take patience. We see Edmund gardening one sunny day. Daisy gets closer to him and asks him whether he enjoyed the drink she prepared for him. He doesn't say anything, so she answers herself. He accidentally cuts his finger, so she helps him by sucking the blood out of it like he once did for her. He looks at her for the first time in a long time, and she leans in for a kiss. She kisses him and he lets her hold his hand. He finally gives in, and she remembers when she said that no matter what happens, she wants to be home, by his side. They hold each other and look into each other's eyes. Daisy is at peace, because she knows Edmund is finally back.